faithful mayor and escort of St Anne's on the Sea, leader of Fylde Borough Council, councillors, civic society members, guests, ladies and gentlemen, we gather to make another significant statement regarding the history of St Anne's on the Sea. Blue plaques are designed to commemorate a link between people, places and events, and serve as a historical marker. Lytham St Anne's Civic Society was founded in 1960, and it is through their good offices that we again mark another historical marker. I invite the chairman of Lytham Civic Society, Marion Coop, to address us.
Never been on one of these before. Welcome everybody. It falls to me to actually say thank you to everybody really, because to enable this to happen in this lovely way has taken a lot of people, a lot of effort. So first of all, I would like to thank St Anne's Town Council for the funding of this plaque and a number of other plaques, of course, within St Anne's, which has made a huge difference to how many plaques we can put up throughout Lytham St Anne's, as we are Lytham St Anne's Civic Society. So we're delighted to be able to put up as many as possible in St Anne's. Their support's really valuable. I'd like to thank George Horridge for actually putting up the plaque, which is not easy. I'd like to thank David Griffiths for arranging his curtain and so on. It's really good. I'd like to thank John Bentham, who is here before me, videoing this to put it on YouTube. I'd like to thank Arnold Sumner. I don't know where he is. Yeah, right, Arnold. Thank you for organising this lovely band, and thank you the band. It's really good. Last but not least, I'd like to thank Lindsay Taylor and Tina and Emma of St Anne's Opticians for actually suggesting this. They were aware of the historic building they were in, and they've done quite a lot of research themselves. And thank you to them for providing refreshments for us afterwards. And I'd also like to thank Lytham Hall for providing us with 60 cups and saucers. I'd like to welcome Timothy Rawstron and David Holmes, who are great-grandsons of Clement Rawstron, whose name you will see on the plaque when you see the plaque. And they're going to say a few words after the Mayor of St Anne's when you can see the plaque. So we are absolutely delighted to add this plaque to our ongoing scheme. We have several more in the pipeline. And I'd also like to thank, as ever, Anne Bodis, who is actually our very efficient organiser. So I'll introduce now Karen Henshaw, the Mayor of St Anne's on the Sea.
Thank you all very much for coming today, ladies and gentlemen. I also would like to say a few thank yous. A big thank you to the Lytham St Anne's Civic Society for helping to organise another blue plaque in the town of St Anne's and encourage everyone to acknowledge the history of our town. So much so that today we have 3 students from Hayhouses School who are very interested in the history of the town, and I'm very glad that you could come here today. Thank you. Thank you also again to St Anne's Opticians for hosting the reception after the unveiling. And to Colin Ballard, of course, for his excellent cry, as usual. I would also like to welcome Timothy and David, the two grandsons of Clement Rawstron, who lived in the first brick-built house in St Anne's, which is now known as Alpha House. It was in this building that Clement Rawstron and Son, joiners and cabinet makers, began. Alpha House then became the first post office in town. One day a builder called to collect his letter, which should have contained a note for £20 to pay his workers. The note was missing. You can imagine Mr. Rawstron felt very uncomfortable. However, a Mrs. Shepherd, who lived at Seafield in Wood Street, was hanging out her washing and discovered the note caught in some bushes. It must have been blown away by the wind. Well, we all know what that's like, don't we, if we live in this town. From a post office, it then became a funeral director's, and then an optician's run by Donald Robinson, and later Thompson's run by Gerald Moore. Today, it was, in 2009, it was run by Claire Hindmarsh and called St Anne's Opticians, which is where we are today. I wonder what your grandfather, Clement Rawstron, would think about our town today. I hope that he would be proud of the way that St Anne's has developed, but still retained its community spirit. Thank you very much, and I'm just about to go and unveil the blue plaque. Thank you.
Yes. Just look this way for me.
Yes.
That's it. Keep looking. That's it. Thank you.
Oh, right. Do you want me to go back and introduce them? All right. So, yeah.
Madam Mayor, members of the St Anne's Town Council, members of the Civic Society, Lindsay and Tina from St Anne's Opticians, about whom more later, my cousin David, whose mother is a Rawstron, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, and Mr Town Crier, very much nice to see you. Well, good morning everybody. I feel very honoured and proud to be here today. I myself am not a St Anne's boy, so maybe I shouldn't be speaking to you. I was born in Blackpool, yes, the noisy neighbour up the road. I have a Blackpool person in I can hear. But I was schooled at the infamous Lawrence House, and since marrying in 1969, Margaret and I have lived here in the town, so I hope you accept me as a local now. Very proud and honoured to be here today. I had no idea that this was about to occur until about a week last Sunday, when David rang me to tell me of the Blue Plaque event. I went in a few days later to the opticians, and I spoke with Lindsay and Tina. Very splendid greeting. I got, oh, it's a real Rawstron. Never had an introduction like that before. But I've learnt quite a bit. They've given me a crash course on what's been happening. And, of course, going back to Clement, of course, then his son Arthur, who was my grandfather. Sadly, I knew very little about Arthur, because around about the time I was born, he moved to East Lancashire, and he died when I was about 8 years old. My father, Douglas, is the second of 9 children, and I gather that all 9 children were born here in Alpha House. Quite an achievement. Father was very much a St Anne's man. He played rugby in the second row for Fylde for 22 years. I think they could have done with him this last season. And although we lived up at Squiresgate, he was very much a St Anne's man at heart. And I think if he'd been here today, big outgoing, cheerful fellow, the world was his friend, but also a very modest man. And I think that if he had been aware of this and the history that had been created and the fact it's being marked in such a splendid manner, I think he would have been very, very proud, as of course am I. A big thank you to everybody for making today possible. Madam Mayor, Town Council, Civic Society, everybody else. Thank you so much for coming along today. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that, and thank you all for turning up. It's really lovely, and the sun's shining and the band's playing, and what more could you want? A cup of tea probably. So, what's happening next time? Cup of tea time. Okay, lovely, thank you. And thank you very much, Karen, for officiating. Thank you. Thanks everyone.
And the band played on.